to. And we're going to start with Danielle Hunter. All right. Uh, when it comes to the 49ers and their defensive line, I am someone last year that was a little down on the 49ers D line. And I thought a lot of it was Bosa and the crew. All right. So I thought that defensive line went as Bosa went. Bosa's on the field. Obviously, he's one of the most dominant players in the NFL. He's going to win a lot of his matchups. But outside of him, I didn't think that there was a lot more help. So, but when it comes to Danielle Hunter and what he does for your San Francisco 49ers in the short term, all right, let's first talk about, who he is, if y'all don't know, right? Terrific pass rusher for the Minnesota Vikings. 3 out of the last 4 years, Danielle Hunter has been the guy who has had double-digit sacks. In the 1 year out of the last 4 years, I believe, that he did not get double-digit sacks was a season where he only played 7 games. And even in that season, he had 6 sacks. All right, so we're talking about a pass rush specialist. I think he's more of a tier 2/3 pass rusher, right? You're not going to talk about him with the Nick Bosa's, Joey Bosa's, with the Myles Garrett's, Watts. He's not going to be in that category, but he's like in another tier of a terrific, an amazing complimentary edge rusher. Could be edge one for a lot of guys, but legit complimentary. And this year, right now, he only is making $5 million. So I think that's the issue. All right. $4.9 million is his base contract. I don't know much about contracts and how they work, but I know it's $4.9 million base contract. So he ain't making what a lot of these other edge rushers are making. I think that's what's kind of upsetting to him right now. And also, it's like, man, I play for the Vikings. I ain't making a lot of money. I don't know what's going on here. We ain't getting better, etc. Like, man, get me out of here. I would assume that would be my mindset if I'm somebody who's still in my prime, 28 years old, in my prime as an edge rusher. Obviously, you see the physique. Dude is physically gifted. But how would he fit with the 49ers? How could the 49ers potentially get him? Would it work? All right. So for me, with the 49ers right now, they're kind of in this range. Eventually you're going to have to pay Nick Bosa. Whether it's this year, you kind of extend him, or next year. But Nick Bosa will be getting extended, and that's going to be a lot of money. So outside of him, there's different things that you can do to kind of piece things together. And part of that is going out and getting a guy like Danielle Hunter for a year. Listen, if the 49ers were to trade for him, and they might have to give something up, might have to give up a second-round pick, a third-round pick. Hell, there might be some teams that are willing to offer a first. All right, obviously the 49ers, we ain't offering first. Finally got a first-round pick back. But is it worth it, a second-round pick, to go and get Danielle Hunter for one season to play opposite Nick Bosa, even though you have a young Drake Jackson? And I would say, hell yeah. And is there a way that you could potentially put some escalators in this contract, right? So kind of restructure it. It's a $5 million or $4.9 million base contract right now. Could you do some things where it's like, hey, if you get double-digit sacks, we'll tack on another $5 million. The 49ers kind of have that. I'm pretty sure they can move some stuff around. I think they already moved around some McCaffrey money and freed up more money. We'll talk about it. I'll bring a capologist on here if it's a deeper conversation. But ultimately, I see scenarios where you can go and get a Danielle Hunter. And how does that make your team better? I think it makes the 49ers tremendously better, because now you're all in on the pass rush, which is what the 49ers kind of have built this team and identity on, being the best up front. All right. Hargraves, terrific. Armstead, I think next to Hargraves, terrific. Obviously got Ken Long. I think he's a good rotation piece. Drake Jackson, I think right now, a better rotation piece than somebody that you can count on to be a double-digit sack guy, but maybe he can. Maybe he can. But right now, we know you got Nick Bosa, and right, you got that Super Bowl aspirations right now. Go all in. And if I am the San Francisco 49ers going all in on a Super Bowl, I'll give up a second-round pick for a guy like Danielle Hunter and what he can do for the 49ers defensively. I mean, this is already a defense who people are counting on to be good. They expect the 49ers defense to be good. And good doesn't mean that to be the number one defense in the NFL. They were last year. But I think there's a scenario where, hell, you going to get a Danielle Hunter, you are the best. Like now the expectations are number one defense in the NFL. And it's very realistic based on the circumstances, based on them holding out. Now, again, you have to put some escalators in his contract to make it work, because he only has a $5 million base contract right now. But to me, that's something that puts the 49ers over the top. If I'm Danielle Hunter from a business standpoint, yeah, pair me next to Nick Bosa and Javon Hargraves and Eric Armstead. Put me on the same defensive line those guys, because now I'm going to do better. And even though I am only on an expiring contract with the San Francisco 49ers, man, if I get another double-digit sack season, what am I going to make in the offseason? Right? So for me, I know there are some other guys out there, the Clownies, and I see my guy right here, Jedi. He says Ingram is a dog, right? There are some. Here we go. Here's a good list right here: Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Houston, Melvin Ingram. He said, Crock, wouldn't it make more sense to sign one of those guys? No, because they're not better than them. They're not better than them. These guys, good, but I would give up a second-round pick for Danielle Hunter, who is just better than Yannick, who's better than Justin Houston at this stage in his career, who's better than Melvin Ingram. He's just better than those guys. And the 49ers, they're trying to go all in right now on being the best version of them that they can be. And I think giving up a second, now again, I ain't giving them the first, but if you told me, hey man, you give up a second to rent him for a season, to rent Danielle Hunter for a season, hell yeah, I'm all in on that. Heck, I mean, they gave up, what was it to get Emmanuel Sanders? A 3 and a 4? So they gave up a 3 and a 4 to rent Emmanuel Sanders for half of a season. And think about how impactful that was for the 49ers. Now, again, that was half a season. And maybe the 49ers take that same type of approach where you're kind of going through the season and you're seeing like, okay, Drake Jackson, maybe not quite where we want him to be right now. And that was the case in 2019. Right? You start the season and it's like, hey, we got Marquise Goodwin, you drafted Deebo Samuel, you got Dante Pettis on that team, you got Kendrick Bourne on that team, and they're all these like younger receivers. And you get halfway through the year and you're like, they're not quite ready yet. Like for what, even though the team was like 8-0 or 7-0, whatever they were at the time that they drafted Emmanuel Sanders, it was right before the Panthers game. So I want to say they were 6-0, about to go 7-0. Whatever it was, 7-0, about to go 8-0. Whatever it was, they were right there on the cusp. And you're like, hey, man, we got something special going on right now. Let's go and do something to put us over the top. And it was going to get Emmanuel Sanders and what he meant. And not just from a, production standpoint, but also just for mentorship to the young receivers and what that meant. But it essentially was, I want to say, a third and a fourth to rent him for the season. And if I'm looking at Danielle Hunter, one, I think you make that trade now, because in 2019, if you kind of go back to that year, obviously you wanted to be good, but the expectations heading into that season was not Super Bowl as far as the outside expectations. Now, maybe in-house they tell you like, man, we want to win the Super Bowl. We think we could do it this year. But that wasn't the case then. You had 2017 season, 49ers suck. 2018 season, Jimmy Garoppolo tore his ACL, 49ers suck. So 2019 season, it was kind of like, hey, man, like, can we potentially make the playoffs? Can we do something? And when you start 8-0, it's like, we got a big chance for something here. Let's go ahead and get Emmanuel Sanders. Right now, hey, this is what our expectations are. So I think you do the Danielle Hunter trade. I think you do that now. And again, it is a rental. You're getting him still in his prime, 28 years old, not an old guy, physically gifted. Again, 3 out of the last 4 years, double-digit sacks. The only year he didn't, he got hurt. And in 7 games, he has 6 sacks. So we're talking about a pass rush specialist, a guy who is in that kind of tier 2, tier 3 of edge rushers. And he puts the 49ers defense over the top. I believe it'd take like a second-round pick, and you could probably steal him right now from the Vikings. If I'm Jet York, if I'm the San Francisco 49ers, that's a move. I just do it because it puts your defense over the top. Yes, you'll be renting him for the year because long-term, you ain't paying him and Nick Bosa. But for this year, he makes the 49ers defense significantly better, and you just know more of what you're getting from that outside guy. Now, again, Drake Jackson could very well take that next step. You won't know until midway through the season. It's not a physical thing. It's more mental. Does Drake Jackson get it mentally? If he does, terrific. You want to wait around for that.